Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Jeffrey. This is the Inquisitive Universe. Welcome. If you're here for the first time, on this channel we discuss smartphones, everything that has got to do with smartphones. That's what we discuss: smartphone accessories, power banks, the smartphones themselves, games, etc, etc, etc. So if you're here for the first time, if you're new, please make sure to go through the video, and I've also got several, and then like see if the channel is what you like, if it's what fits you. If you feel that there's stuff that you're interested in that you want me to cover as pertains to smartphones, please do well to leave comments and in the comment section. Okay, so let's get started on this one. The top 5 phones that you can get for 100,000 naira. Actually, to be fair, it is the top 3 phones because it is very hard to find decent phones for 100,000 naira. And that would then take me to the question, how much is your 100,000 naira worth? I'm sure some people are now like looking at me like something is missing of here. No, because to be honest, 100,000 naira, that's around 100, and as at the last time I checked, 127, 125, 128 ish US dollars is still a very substantial amount, especially in this country here called Nigeria, because we're living through one of the worst periods of inflation right now. Inflation is running away. So the point now is, how much is your 100,000 naira worth? 100,000 naira to most people is still a very huge amount of money. But when it comes to smartphones, you are not very likely, if you walk out into the market with layman knowledge, you're not likely going to get value for that 100k, because the purchasing power of 100,000 naira has greatly been reduced for the past 2-3 years now. What a 100,000 naira would get, like in 2020 for example, 100,000 naira would get you a decent upper mid-range phone. In fact, I'm going too far. In 2019, 90,000, 80,000 naira will get a decent upper mid-range phone. You did not even have to spend. If you were spending upwards of 100k, that means you were getting some of the newest features that they were dropping out, like the Mi90's pop-up camera. But right now, 100,000 naira is no longer what it used to be. And this is what I keep trying to tell people. Somebody come like, I want a phone that can take pictures like your own. So how much is your budget? 100,000 naira should be more than enough. Where do I start explaining? Because most people won't listen to you. They just go and then they listen to some YouTuber, somebody that one company has paid to market one phone with G37, and then they'll listen to those people, and then later they then come back and say, oh, you were saying the truth that time. But no, I am Jeffrey, nobody listens to me. Let me get to 1,000 subscribers first, and I will need you to help me do that so that we get this message out there. 100,000 naira as at this point in time, it's no longer what it used to be, which means that you have to be extra savvy, extra smart when you go out into the market to buy phones at the 100,000 naira rate. Now, I was talking about like categories just now. I said that in 2019, 2020, 100,000 naira would be able to get you very solid upper mid-range phone. Nowadays, what it's going to get you is a budget phone or a lower mid-range phone at best. Lower mid-range phone at best, but on average a budget phone. But if you're not careful, they are going to package entry-level phones and sell to you. If you want to know entry-level phones are, I have already made top 5 phones around 50k, 50, 60k ish that you should be buying. You should check the top of the screen. I'm the one editing this one, so you definitely see it, right? So those are entry-level phones, and their phones, entry-level phones with entry-level processors like the G37, G36. You will see them on phones that they are selling for 100k if you're not sharp. So that's the thing. Now, if you are getting a phone for 100,000 naira, some of the best things that you can get, allow me to set this benchmark for you. If you're not going to set it for yourself, that's why I know these things, and that's why I'm out here sharing them in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. I kid you not. I don't know if you can see this, but it's 3 a.m. in the morning. So that's why I'm sharing this with you right now. The benchmark you should set for yourself is a MediaTek Helio G85 processor for performance. MediaTek Helio G85. That's the benchmark you should be setting for yourself. G80 at the very least, if you can still find phones using a G80 processor, but it should be Helio G85 at the very least. You can still find phones around using that processor around the 100,000 naira mark. Please do not go and buy Unisoc T606, Helio G37, Helio G36, and so on and so forth for 100k. That would be like throwing money away, especially in this period that we are in. So that's the requirements for which I've gotten these 5 phones that I'm going to share with you right now. The top 5 phones that you can get for 100,000 naira. Now, when I was doing this research, it was very hard to do this research because I tried getting the message out. I didn't really speak to them. I tried getting the message out that people who are selling phones, so what are the current prices in the market? But nobody replied me back. What, this guy not get subscribers, who will be, he won't forward. Like, people are always, when you go out there, I'm sorry, but it's the truth, when you go out there into this space and then you're trying to communicate with people, most people, the first thing they'll go and do is look at your subscriber count, and then that would then determine if they want to even communicate with you or not. It's not even about helping people now. It's like, I don't know, I don't want to toot my own horn right now, but it's like I'm the only one who does these things, like, want to go out there and then like put this information there. People, they just want to sell, they don't care, unfortunately. So if you want, if you want us to get this message out, again, please, I'm telling you, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and share this message to as many people that want to buy phones for 100,000 naira, so that they don't throw money away to the dogs. Because these companies that sell these trashy low-end phones that want to sell it for 100k, they are not going to tell you this. The people who are selling phones want to protect their sales. They're not going to tell you this. Some of the so-called big YouTubers that they've been giving free units to review, they're not going to tell you this. It's a systematic campaign of brainwashing, right? So let's go on. Top 5 phones that you can get for around 100k. Now, the very first one on my list, number 5. It only made number 5 because I couldn't find anything else. I'm sorry, that's the truth. The list is on my lap here. I don't have a teleprompter, so forgive me. I'm going to be looking down sometimes. That's going to be the Tecno Spark 9 Pro. It is an old device from 2021. Unfortunately, the Tecno Spark 9 Pro is an old device, 2021, 2022-ish, kind of. So it's going to set you back around 90,000 naira. Now, the reason I picked this one is because it has 4 gig RAM. Like I always tell people who know me very well, that the least that you should be buying, especially for around 100k, even nowadays, regardless of the amount, is a 4 gig RAM device, because 4 gig RAM is the new 2 gig RAM. If you really want to enjoy your smartphone, 4 gig RAM is the lowest you should be looking at. So this one is a 4 gig RAM 128 gig device for 90,000 naira. If you can still find it, it uses a Helio G85, a 50 megapixel camera, a 1080p display, and of course it has a 5000 milliampere battery. Solid specs for the price. If you can still find it, around 90k ish, could be more. The problem with doing research is that the prices are always changing. You check today, it's a certain price. You check tomorrow, it's added like 5,000 on top, and then you check next tomorrow, it's added another 5,000 naira on top. Unfortunately, this is one of the worst inflations I have seen in my 3 decades alive. So that's it. After the Tecno Spark 9 Pro, the next one you're going to be looking at is the Infinix Hot 20. It's also another phone from last year, the Infinix Hot 20, and you'd find it around the 100k mark. I don't know the specific amount, but it's around the 100k mark. So you do your research. The Infinix Hot 20, that's for the 464 gig variant. 64 gig isn't really ideal in today's day and age, where people want to keep 100 movies on their phones. So if you're having a 64 gig storage, you're going to have to be smart, which you manage your storage by yourself. So 464 gig around 100k, you could find it for less, you could find it for more, thereabouts. And the reason I'm saying this is because of the Helio G85 processor it's got, 1080p display, 50 megapixel camera, and a 5000 milliampere battery. And I think this one has got 18 watts of fast charge. So those are very solid specs for the price. That would then take us to the number 3 on the list. Number 3 on the list, that's the third one, is the Redmi 12C. And the Redmi 12C is one very phone. It's a phone that I have reviewed personally, I have handled, that I have taken for extensive tests. And the fact that it came number 3 on this list is because of the strength of the top 2, which I'm sure that you very much like to hear about. The Redmi 12C costs around just 90k, let's just put it like that. 88,900, but 90k. This one, I think I'm quite sure of the price because I got it from Slot and then Point Tech for the 6 168 gig variant. There's also a 128 gig variant for around 76,000 naira, so you should probably check that out if you don't need as much gigs of RAM. But 4 gig RAM, 6 gig RAM is the same to around 70-80, and it is one of the best value for money phones that you can get right now at this very point in time, at least before the prices skyrocket again. So do keep that in mind. The Redmi 12C has got a Helio G85 processor. It has a 720p display, so that explains why it's a bit, like cheaper than the other ones I've mentioned. 50 megapixel camera, which is actually quite decent. I've done a review on that. I'm going to link it up at the top of the screen. And then a 5000 milliampere battery. That would then take us to number 2. The number 2 on this list is the Redmi 10. The Redmi 10 is a solid phone, 4 gigs RAM, 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. It sells for around 97,000 naira, if I'm not mistaken. 97,000 naira, but again, the prices are always shifting, but you should find it for around 97,000 naira. Helio G88 processor, which is a slightly better version of the G85. The G88 is basically G85 with higher clock speed and so on and so forth. Then it's got a 1080p display, 50 megapixel camera, and 5000 milliamperes of battery. That's the Redmi 10. Then also, the Redmi 10 is a decent device. I think it was released in 2021, but you can still find it. I think it's still available in the market. It has been replaced by the Redmi 12, but the Redmi 12, if you want the Redmi 12, you're going to have to spend in excess of 120k, which is beyond the scope of this video. So therefore, funny enough, the Redmi 12 is the same thing as the Redmi 10, so do yourself a favor and just buy the Redmi 10 instead if you can still find it. So solid phone. And that would then take us to the number 1 on the list, the budget champion. And I have been waxing lyrical about this phone for years since last year. So this one is one very decent phone if you can still find it. I believe it's supposed to still be around, but the prices are going up, so I'm not very sure how much it costs. As at last week, it cost 98,900, which is essentially 99,000, which is essentially 100,000. By the way, the top phone that you could get for 100,000 naira is the Redmi 10C, and like that phone basically is one of the best phones that you get around. It's got a Snapdragon 680, which is better than the G85, which, I mean, it's a Snapdragon processor for that matter, so which means that you get the best camera performance in this grade. It comes with a 50 MP camera, 50 megapixel camera on the back. The selfie is middling to average, but the rear cameras on the back, you get decent performance on it. That's the Snapdragon 680 50 megapixel camera, but it's a downgrade on the display. It's a 720p display, so you're going to have to put up with that, but it's got a 5000 milliampere battery. So these are the top 5 phones that you can get for around the 100,000 naira mark. There are other phones around, but most of them were just terrible. You see phones with Helio G37, Helio G35, Unisoc T606. These are all low processors. It's why I have a list of top 100. It's actually a top 200 list though, but for SEO purposes I named the top 100 smartphone processors. And if you go there, you would see the levels of these processors, and then you'd wonder why they would sell something so low for something that's it's the same price as something higher. I don't know if you get. So please do well, right? Please do well to do your research before going out, and then make sure that any phone you're buying, check the processor first. If it's lower than Helio G85 and you want to buy it for around 100,000 naira, do not buy. It has to be Helio G85 or nothing to get that performance, especially people who want to play games. If you want to play games, it's the 100k level. That's where you start from if you want to play games, eFootball, PUBG, and so on and so forth. Helio G85 and above. If you go and buy a Helio G37 that you want to play games, sorry for you. If you want to do anything social media related with videos or with photos, this is the level where you start from. Anything below a Helio G85 will be frustrating for you. The images will be poor and the video will be nothing to write home about. So with that, we've come to the end of this video. So I've got several other videos you may want to check out. So there's a box here, there should be a box here, and then there should be a box somewhere up here as well. So do well to check them out. And then please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It's the subscribes that keep me coming back, that make me, you know, go through all the stress of working. I have a very giant note, as you can see. This is where most of my research is done. I do a lot of research, okay, just to make sure that I put this content out. I don't go and sit down and just start talking rubbish. I do a lot of research before coming out to make videos. So thank you very much for coming, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.